Started selling me and took me to bars and brothels and sold me.
Right now, a South Bay woman's daring escape and a story she would not share until tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessica Aguirre.
And I'm Lisa Kim. Sex slaves, human trafficking. We've heard those horrific stories of abuse in foreign countries, but it also happens right here in our own backyard. Tonight, how one woman sold for sex by her own family survived her nightmare. NBC Bay Area's Kimberly Terry is live in Fremont with her story. Kimberly.
Tonight, we met a San Jose native who says she was sold for sex starting at the age of 10, but that the abuse started much earlier. I do want to warn you that what you might hear is graphic and at times very disturbing.
When I was kind of 2 to 3 years old is when my father started sexually abusing me, and it was sort of, I remember just thinking somebody's there to finally hug me because they hadn't been around, and that was when he, convinced me that this was Daddy loving me.
Min Dang grew up in San Jose. She says for as long as she can remember, she was taught that as her parents' only daughter, it was her responsibility to serve them.
My slave role was set in stone by a contract that they made me write when I was 8. So they actually had me write out that I was going to give them 1/3 of my income for the rest of my life, buy them a house.
Min alleges 2 years after that contract was signed, her father started taking her to bars and brothels, selling her for sex.
I remember sitting there and knowing what was going to happen, but trying to pretend it wasn't. And the whole time my father was raping me at home anyway. And to me that felt like actually training. He was teaching me how to service somebody, and then it was no big deal to go do it for somebody else.
Min says her father kept the profits and claims her mother, wanting cash for herself, started selling Min for sex separately.
They had threatened my life so early on that I was so afraid to tell anybody.
Min claims her mother had these photos taken to use for advertising in magazines and newspapers. Min, now 26 years old, estimates that in the 10 years she was sold for sex, she made her parents more than $2 million.
My father bought prostitutes. My parents bought 2 homes. They bought land in Vietnam. They bought cars.
Always striving to please her parents, Min graduated at the top of her class in high school and went on to UC Berkeley. That's when she says she put an end to the abuse. She says,
I can't change the past.
In the last 6 months, Min started speaking publicly about her experience. She says facing the devastating truth about her childhood is part of her healing process.
Oh, the worst part was not being loved and to feel isolated and alone my whole life. There are people all around, and I didn't have a single friend or teacher or anybody that I could tell.
To this day, Min has not pressed charges against her parents. She says it is something that she considers, but knows it is going to be a very painful process and is one she's just not sure she can endure right now. Live in Fremont, Kimberly Terry, NBC, Bay Area News.
Thank you, Kimberly. And tonight, Dang is working to get tougher penalties for human traffickers right here in California, along with a victims' rights organization.
The current sentence for human trafficking is 8 years in California, and we're trying to change that to up to life in prison.
California Against Slavery is a non-profit organization that wants to put an initiative on the 2012 ballot. The executive director of that organization says they're working on educating the public and raising money.